You have no right to be here. This funeral was never approved by me. Step away from that casket immediately. There exist boundaries that people should never violate. Boundaries carved deep into basic humanity, respect, and sorrow. And even someone like Karen ought to understand she shouldn't trample over them with a grin on her face. It began with Mr. Talion Wilson, a resident who, exactly like me, refused to submit to Karen's absurd demands, penalties, or her clipboard-driven control. Because of our resistance, we remained constant irritants in her world. Welcome to Prodigy Tales. Remember to like and subscribe for the best HOA conflicts. We challenged her fines, doubted her power, and declined to applaud during her speeches. Although Mr. Wilson was older and more reserved, his quiet presence held real influence. We were never close friends, never exchanged drinks or backyard gatherings. Yet we shared a connection built from common frustration and a joint determination not to be intimidated by a woman who wielded regulations like instruments of war. When rumors circulated that Mr. Wilson had become sick, I dismissed them as a temporary issue. Perhaps a cold or fatigue, until the talk grew into concerned discussions. During the following HOA gathering, his wife appeared trembling, her voice faint, eyes empty, and revealed the reality to everyone. He was terminal. The medical expenses kept mounting, and she requested assistance without any arrogance or sense of demand. An unusual event unfolded. Purses opened, cash envelopes circulated, and commitments were offered. It seemed genuinely compassionate, honest, and proper in an environment that Karen had stripped of every trace of kindness. Then Karen broke in, striking her pen like a hammer, labeling Mr. Wilson as someone in debt, a violator, an opponent undeserving of any support. She claimed that donating was useless and even risky since it encouraged rebellion. I interrupted her evenly at the start, pointing out that this concerned survival, not yard maintenance regulations. She spoke over me more forcefully, more cuttingly, her gaze burning with a sense of power she believed was her birthright. Nevertheless, the others disregarded her. Funds continued to flow, and faces turned supportively to Mrs. Wilson instead of Karen. The session concluded tensely yet optimistically. As seats shifted and residents murmured, Karen remained motionless, her expression rigid, observing sympathy escape her grasp. And in that quiet moment, a sinister and calculating look formed in her stare, overlooked by nearly everyone except me. I had no idea at the time that our goodwill had singled us out, and Karen had secretly compiled her own private record. Before exploring further, please share in the comments which country or city you're viewing this tale from. We appreciate knowing the reach of this story. Following the gathering, I contacted Mrs. Wilson personally, not in my role as an HOA participant, but simply as a nearby resident unable to accept the chilly atmosphere that had developed. I offered what I was able, money inside an unmarked envelope without identification or strings attached. And she wept as if the weight finally lifted from beneath her. Several others contributed discreetly out of Karen's sight, since showing mercy apparently demanded concealment in our area. Karen, in contrast, came apart visibly. She visited homes without invitation, cautioning owners that assisting Mr. Wilson equated to aligning against a foe, that offering aid now would breed disorder later. Residents heard her out courteously before closing their doors. Her influence now rang empty. Several days afterward, the information struck harshly. Mr. Wilson had died. No unexpected recovery, no final rescue, merely a phone call, a subdued tone, and a home that seemed lonelier than the road outside. The community grieved together. Lights appeared on doorsteps, food was delivered, and children were instructed to ride silently. I assumed, perhaps naively, that Karen might pause to consider her actions, or possibly experience regret. My expectation proved mistaken. During the subsequent HOA session, as his passing received formal mention, Karen spoke up and inquired about covering the remaining penalties. No hesitation, no sympathy, only figures. She discussed infractions involving vehicles, lawn-length warnings, and sanctions given while the individual was receiving medical care. Silence fell over the space. One person chuckled in shock. Another rose and exited. Karen stayed unmoved. She emphasized that regulations survive individuals. What intensified the situation was the trivial nature of those penalties. Citations for non-existent breaches, documents sent when no vehicle sat there. Karen had penalized non-existence. Domination was her interest, retribution. Mrs. Court. Wilson remained seated calmly, fingers clasped, taking in the harshness without response. That composure provoked Karen even more. The assembly broke apart amid soft talk and hostile looks. upon departing, sorrow had transformed into something keener. The service was set for the following day. None of us anticipated Karen venturing past that ultimate limit. Still, every sense warned me she was already devising an inexcusable act. Eventually, the funeral day came beneath a subdued atmosphere, the sort that weighs heavily upon you and compels speech to soften. Almost every local resident attended, attired in dark and neutral tones, positioned closely together in an uncommon display of solidarity. Blossoms decorated the walkway, images were placed beside the coffin, and the atmosphere held collective mourning. Tales were shared, chuckles emerged amid weeping, and briefly, the HOA resembled a true neighborhood rather than a conflict zone. Mrs. Wilson occupied the foremost position, maintaining her composure with remarkable strength. Suddenly, motors thundered. Karen's vehicle approached swiftly, parked unevenly, grinding stones as if declaring her arrival. She emerged abruptly from the front, brandishing documents and yelling about permission. She declared loudly that the assembly breached HOA guidelines, that memorial events needed consent, that Mr. Wilson remained an adversary owing payments, even after dying. Faces turned sharply in her direction. Quiet voices became shocked breaths. I moved ahead, instructed her to depart, and explained that this was a hallowed space and not her domain for judgment. Karen paid no attention. She pushed through the grieving attendees, toppled several floral arrangements, and seized the side of the casket platform, furiously complaining about unpaid obligations and rule enforcement. Shocked breaths escalated into cries of alarm. A funeral director stood motionless, visibly appalled. Without hesitation, I met his gaze and signaled agreement. We advanced as one. When Karen charged forward once more, we firmly held her arms and guided her backward as she howled about power and insolence. She lashed out with her feet, swore violently, and hurled insults more cutting than blades. An individual passed me some cord from a nearby service vehicle. We bound her wrists securely yet carefully, as fellow attendees contacted law enforcement. Karen struggled wildly, her face flushed crimson, issuing warnings of legal action and permanent exclusions. Mobile devices appeared everywhere. Locals recorded the incident. Mrs. Wilson kept her eyes fixed ahead without turning. The disturbance reverberated across the burial grounds, with approaching siren sounds intensifying from afar. And for the initial time, Karen appeared diminished, helpless, ensnared by the exact regulations she revered. The group drew closer, feeling surging, the past observing, repercussions drawing near swiftly, and no one intervened to protect her dignity or halt the events that unfolded afterward. Precisely then, happening openly in full public view today, authorities reached a situation impossible to distort. Recordings had already circulated widely. Testimonies accumulated substantially, and Karen continued shouting hoarsely while restrained next to the coffin she had attempted to overturn. Law enforcement officials distinguished sentiments from evidence, paid attention, reviewed clips, and examined accounts, and the facts aligned straightforwardly and harshly. Karen faced detention on accusations that accumulated rapidly: disruptive behavior, physical attack, property damage, and disruption of a memorial service. Every allegation carried greater weight successively. Her clipboard received treatment as proof and was sealed away. Her dominance dissolved instantly upon encountering actual circumstances. At the precinct, she persistently insisted on contacting the committee, yet received notification that the committee had severed ties with her. Proceedings advanced faster than anticipated by all. The magistrate reviewed the video silently, halting solely to question Karen on why regulations held greater importance than compassion. She offered no reply. Mrs. Wilson addressed the court briefly and composedly, recounting sorrow disrupted by malice, and the atmosphere shifted supportively toward her testimony. Karen received substantial monetary penalties, received directives to compensate for harms caused, underwent required psychological support sessions, and faced a lifelong prohibition from holding any HOA governance role across the region. Incarceration occurred afterward, short in duration, yet impactful enough to resonate throughout her standing. Upon returning to the area, the HOA broke down into urgent sessions in her absence. Investigations uncovered invented citations, unlawful sanctions, and prolonged intimidation. Repayments were distributed. Expressions of regret emerged. A fresh committee emerged, open and measured. Mr. Wilson's record received formal clearance, obligations were removed after his passing, and a commemorative seat was placed at the location where Karen had previously stopped to issue violations. The community exhaled freely once more. Kindness no longer demanded approval. Karen, in the meantime, observed from beyond the circle, deprived of influence, confronting residents who now understood the full reality. Domination had served as her resource, terror had powered her, and both had vanished. Fairness remained quiet. It established itself firmly, irrefutably, and well-deservedly. Residents discovered that bravery expands through collective effort, that quietness nourishes tyrants, and that uniting transforms mourning into determination, guaranteeing that no title or regulation ever surpasses fundamental human respect again in any location, at any time. The end. Please like and subscribe for additional HOA confrontations of this nature. Do you believe she received appropriate consequences? Share your thoughts in the comments below.